The topic of this video is mathematical models building functions. Let's look at a problem. A right triangle has one vertex on the graph of y equals x to the eighth, x greater than 0 at x comma y, another at the origin, and a third on the positive y-axis. Express the area A of the triangle as a function of x. What is the domain of A? Using a graphing utility, graph A of x. For what value of x is the area 1/2? Okay, so the first thing we want to do is we want to look at the diagram. The diagram of this graph is going to be given to you in the problem. And so it's going to look a little something like this. There's a y value of 1. There's an x value of 1. The graph is going to go right through that point, and it's going to be very flat near the origin, and then it's going to turn sharply through this point and up. And the point x comma y can be anywhere on here, as long as x is greater than 0, so that means it has to be in the first quadrant. So for example, I can pick this point right here as the point on my function, and then I'm going to make a triangle based on that particular location. And the way I'm going to make this triangle is I am going to form a line that is here, and then a line that is here, and there is my triangle. And the challenge for this problem is to come up with the area of this particular triangle. Okay, so let's just go through this quickly. We're going to do primarily the skill portion here. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the concept. I'm just going to demonstrate the skill. Okay, so here we go. So we know that we are dealing with a triangle. We know that the base is equal to x, the height is equal to y, and the area of a triangle is 1/2 the base times the height. So area is equal to 1/2 times x times y. We know that for this problem, y is equal to x to the 8th. So we replace y with x to the 8th. And then finally, we replace a with a of x. So we get a of x equals 1/2 x to the 1st times x to the 8th is x to the 9th. All right, so there we go. We have made our function. We have expressed the area A of the triangle as a function of x. Okay, now what is the domain? This is very easy. They actually give it to you right here in the problem. X is greater than 0. So the domain is x is greater than 0 as an interval. That would be from 0 to infinity. Okay, next, using a graphing utility, graph A of x. We'll do that in the next video. And finally, for what value of x is the area 1/2? We'll do that here and now. So we're going to use our formula here, right here. They're telling us that the area is 1/2, so that's a of x. So we're going to put 1/2 right here and then solve for x. So 1/2 is equal to 1/2 x to the 9th power. Now, we're going to use a very thoughtful technique here. This is a technique that I like to use from time to time. The 1/2 and the x to the 9th are being multiplied. In fact, I'm going to write this in a slightly different way. 1/2 times x to the 9th. So let's use the thinking technique here. You ready? I'm going to cover up this x to the 9th. So 1/2 equals 1/2 times what value? The only number that you can put here for this purple square to make this whole thing true is 1. 1/2 times 1 would still be 1/2. So whatever is behind this purple square here has to be equal to 1. So I get x to the 9th power equals 1. Now, the only number that x can be, so that when you raise it to the 9th power, gives the result of 1 is 1. So I get x equals 1. If x is 1, you'd have 1 to the 9th power. That would be 1 times 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 1. That's 1. So x must be 1, and therefore that is the answer to this last part of the question. All right, and in our next video, we're going to do the Desmos portion of this, and we're going to plot this graph.